Hey everyone, I'm Colin Weston with the ModGolf Podcast. Thanks for joining me today. So, today my guest is John Simpson, who is the founder of On-Course Foundation and the Simpson Cup. I had a great conversation with John in our long-form audio podcast with the ModGolf Podcast. I do encourage you to listen to that. I have a link down below where you can check that out. But I'm going to mix it up a little bit here, as I always do. I'm going to ask John a couple of different questions. I'm really curious about the future of the On-Course Foundation and want to learn about that. But to start, there he is, coming to us from London. I'm in Vancouver. The beauty of technology, we can be in different time zones and have a conversation in real time. John, welcome back to the ModGolf YouTube channel. How are you doing?
Very good, and I can see you and hear you well.
Excellent. Excellent to hear. So, John, yes, we did talk about the origin story of On-Course Foundation, your purpose, your why back in 2009, kind of the first experience, if you want to call it an aha moment, or that the kind of the defining moment of why you then move forward to create the On-Course Foundation. So, for our viewers here, why don't you kind of encapsulate for us, we call it an elevator pitch, but tell us what the On-Course Foundation is, what you do, and why you do it.
Sure. Well, I'm disabled myself. I had polio as a kid, and I had a number of operations when I was 13. So I took that year out. And then my father and this other chap said, golf is the one game you can play when you're disabled on a level playing field with able-bodied. And that's really how it all started for me playing golf. Got down to 7 handicap and did my studies, and then eventually wrote to a guy called Mark McCormack, who was managing the big 3 in golf, and his company was growing very quickly. And I thought, sport has got to be the business of the future. And I wrote to him, and the rest is history, to say. I was there for 20 years.
Wow. Well, you certainly nailed that, thinking sport was a growth industry, and I'm sure you couldn't even imagine how it's exploded in the last 2-3 decades, or especially even the last decade, just as far as fan engagement with so many multiple platforms and so many different ways to consume content now. So you definitely made the right decision, John. I think you nailed that one. So why don't you tell us? Share with us again in 2009, because you played golf recreationally quite a bit up at that time. You said getting down to a 7 handicap, but you had a moment, something that really defined you to focus your energy on creating what now is the On-Course Foundation. So tell us about that.
Sure. Well, it was a day that I'll never forget. And I was playing golf. I actually played quite well that day. And one of the chaps who I didn't know said to me afterwards whether I'd come down and speak to his people. And I wasn't too sure what he did, but it turned out he worked at Headley Court, the British Military Rehabilitation Center. And in 2009, when I addressed quite a few of them down there just to tell them what golf had done for me, and it was like a moment when I suddenly realized, if I could get them to understand what golf has done for me, and how I got my confidence and self-esteem from playing golf and then getting a job in the golf industry. If I could get these over to these guys, that there is life after what they've just been through, and golf is no better sport than I know of, that we could get them going. And that's how it all started. And the charity, the On-Course Foundation, teaches injured servicemen and women on a long-term basis. There's no short-term fix. And we teach them the etiquette and the rules and the history of the game, because the idea is then when they're ready, and if it makes sense, to get them employment within the golf and related industries. And that, to me, if you can play this great game on this level playing field, get back with your comrades, realize there's some of them are worse off than you. The fun begins. You're getting off the sofa, and if you can work in the golf industry, well, as far as I'm concerned, we've all cracked it then.
Oh, love it. Love what you're doing, and the fact you have this platform with events and training to introduce people to the game, as you mentioned, and then also with your employment program. And you shared some incredibly impactful stories there of the difference that you've made in people's lives on the employment side in the golf industry. And then also with your flagship event named after yourself, I'm sure by no coincidence, with the Simpson Cup. So tell our viewers a bit about the Simpson Cup, which I believe you just finished up your 2022 version in the last month or so.
Yeah,
so tell us about that.
correct. Well, the idea was that once we got the charity rolling, and we started here, as we said, in 2010, and then in America in 2012, if we could create an event, and it was a Ryder Cup type event that we got going, and you could raise the awareness of the On Course Foundation, give the guys and girls something to look forward to, and try and get to the fact that they can represent their countries again, and then raise money for the On Course Foundation, well, that would be brilliant. So we started at TPC Sawgrass in 2012, and we just last 2 weeks ago, we just finished at Baltusrol, and we basically choose the best golf courses we can to give these guys the best experience we can. And all the UK venues, because we alternate years, UK, USA. And in USA, we've had, I said, Baltusrol, Congressional, Oak Hill, TPC Sawgrass, Maidstone, The Creek. And over here, every one we've been at has been an open venue. And 2019 was particularly special when St Andrews was the venue. So, it's a great experience for them, competing on this level playing field, as it were. 18 handicap is the maximum. And this year we had 11 rookies, which shows there's a whole new group coming through, to a girl on either side as well. And on the American side, we had a Congressional Medal of Honor chap, which is quite something. And, it was just great to see that once they started the matches, that they were giving it 100%. But it's hard to put into words that it was like playing with your brother. I know it sounds a bit corny, but it was exactly how it was. And the camaraderie and the great atmosphere between them all, both on and off the course, was something to behold.
Yes. Well, creating that sense of community and connectivity for all humans, for all of us here, we're just built that way. And I know that little thing called COVID was very difficult for all of us. I'm sure no difference for you and in your community. But I would like you to share you're a great storyteller, and you've shared some great stories personally, and also with people that you've been involved with, and athletes and golfers that you've helped over the years. I would like you to tell another story, this time maybe with a woman, a service person that has connected with you, that is part of your community. So can you share a story that you're very proud of with a woman that you're involved with?
So definitely. There was a girl who was an officer actually in the British Army, an engineer, and she got cancer of the jaw, which is very rare. Wow. But it was interesting, and I really find it strange that we had a couple of Americans, males, with the same problem. One, in fact, died of it. And they were all in Afghanistan. That's another issue. Right. But she, for a lady particularly, to lose your jaw as she had to, and for them to rebuild it from bone, from her leg and everywhere else. And then the radiotherapy that was needed meant that she couldn't have children naturally. Right. Her confidence really came back once she said to us she joined On Course. She's become a fantastic golfer. Plays off 13, I think, handicap, but I wouldn't want to play her off 13. She's very good and hits it long. And I'm pleased to say she has now just had a baby just before, about 6 months, or maybe a bit more than that, year ago. So the whole thing has stemmed through the On Course Foundation and the brilliant work that the surgeons did to bring her back to, that you'd have to really look hard to see there was a problem. Yeah. And then get all her confidence and she's now actually captain of her golf club this year.
Amazing. And what is her name?
Something that her name is Kate, and she would never ever have thought that 4 or 5 years ago she would be playing golf. Number one, and I think it's something like 80% of all the guys we have, all our members, have never played golf before their injuries, and so that's an amazing story for us. And I think, the one good thing is about, the ladies are still not hopefully allowed in the front line with the guys. So we have people like Kate who've had, or people have had injuries in the military. And one of the other ones we have is obviously some of the nurses. We have a few nurses who have got PTSD, and I can only imagine what they must have seen in Afghanistan, as you know, using the same hospitals with all the Canadians, the Brits, and the Americans going there. And it's not, I just, it's hard to talk about because they must know how horrific, and we can only imagine how bad that was. And I know that one girl we had, she told me that she got to a point where she obviously get to a mental state that the mind said, that's enough. And it took 3 months for her to learn how to speak again.
Wow.
It's kind of powerful, isn't it? When you think what the body and mind can do when you're going through that much trauma, both mentally and physically.
Well, so, it sounds like you recognized very early on that having that moment in 2009, that foundational moment of what a difference golf can make in people's lives, both psychologically, physically, and once again, just emotionally, and that connectivity to everyone around them. The golf is just that great unifier in that sense. So I want to finish with this question, John, here, and that's the future for what you are creating, what you've built already. In fact, we shared on the audio podcast the origin story, the build up, all that great backstory. So I really encourage our viewers to become listeners and going back to listen to John's story there. But share with us to finish up, John, where you see the future and the opportunities for what you're doing with On Course Foundation.
Well, I think firstly, I wanted to be in a position of growing it, that we didn't say what we were going to do, but look, this is what we've done. And these guys and girls are our best ambassadors. We now got to that stage. And I think the major thing is the push we're doing in America right now. When you think there are just under 4 million injured American servicemen. And I mentioned before, a horrible statistic is around 22 commit suicide every day. So that's a major priority. I would love to see if we could get started in Canada, because I do realize how many injured servicemen there would be there and are there. And I think the third thing is something that I feel strongly about, but it's the next big stage, if you like. And I just thought to myself, we've got guys and girls now that have actually taken PGA exams. They are professional, they're teaching. And when I was going through rehab as a kid, no one ever said to me, there's one game you can play on a level playing field is golf. No one. And if we could get children in ever what sort of disability, and you're told by a guy with one leg, one arm, whatever, you can play this, and he physically can teach you, you can't say to him, my leg hurts or my arm hurts, because they don't want to hear it.
Yes.
I haven't got a leg, but this is what you've got to do. And I think if we could take that through, and knowing I'm so positive about what it can do for them, golf, and then with the idea of working in the industry again, because every village and every town, every city has got golf courses around it. It's a great way to actually play the game and work in it as well. And that's a long-term view for me. And I'm pleased to see that we're now putting some ideas in action on that one.
Well, I sense there'll be no retirement for you because your energy level and your passion, I can feel it. Sounds like you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life because you get such fulfillment from it yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it is great. And I just think that it is passion is the word you said, but when you see what it does, and that's the great thing about hosting when we do fundraisers. I said earlier, there's so many good charities. There's not too many bad ones that I know, but to actually have a day's golf to raise money, and the 20 guys or girls that come down and play in it are injured servicemen who, 80% never knew how to hit a golf ball until they joined us. And they're playing off single figures and they're having a lot of fun and they're getting employment. We've cracked it.
Amazing.
I think.
Amazing. Love what you're doing here, John. So please share with our viewers how they can find out more about On Course Foundation. So what the website's the best place to go. So tell us.
Sure.
Tell us where
definitely. That's the easiest. In America, it's On Course Foundation USA.org. And in Britain, it's oncoursefoundation.com. And again, I'd love to talk to you about it when we're off at some point to see how we can maybe start thinking about what we could do in Canada, because, I can see, you can see how passionate you'd be about it, because you can bring an awful lot of positivity and future for these guys and girls.
I have a feeling this is not our last conversation, John, that we'll be having many more in the future after.
Great. Well,
after
I'm delighted about that.
So John Simpson, founder of On Course Foundation and the Simpson Cup. John, thanks so much for spending the time with me today, not only on our YouTube video here, but also on the podcast earlier. So really appreciate this. Want to express my gratitude of how much I do appreciate you sharing your story today. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much. And I say it's always great to speak to someone that has done a lot of research on it and knows what we're all about. And I really appreciate that. And thank you for all your help.
You're welcome. All right. You take care. We'll talk soon.
Soon. Thank you. Bye.